Over the weekend, you might have seen the hashtag Oregon under attack.
Here's how to sound smart about it.
So over the weekend, a militia in Oregon, not necessarily from Oregon, but traveled to Oregon to protest for the rights of ranchers and against federal tyranny of land use. And to do that, there was a protest in a city, and a couple of dozen miles away, a militia took over some federal buildings at a national wildlife refuge. It is the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. Now, you've probably seen a little bit of that in the news. We want to give you a little bit more details about what led up to this invasion of those buildings. Although I already know people are heading into the comments who aren't interested in those details and are pissed off because how dare you stand up for statism? We're going to talk about it. So, over the past few years, there were two men, Daryl Hammond, age 73, and his son, Stephen, age 46. Now, they have ranched in this area in Oregon for a very long time, and for a number of years, stretching back in some cases decades, they've been feuding with the government about the use of certain areas of land. Now, understand that in this county, the federal government owns a large amount of the land, which is one of the things that led up to this.
Right.
And those men are alleged to have set fire to public land and burned down something like 136 or 140 acres of public land. Now, they say that they set fires on their own land to get rid of invasive species and to set a fire break so that fire doesn't spread onto their land. And then it just happened to spread onto public lands, which, by the way, is probably its own crime. That doesn't seem like the best defense in the world. The federal government says that, no, they purposefully burned the public lands to either piss off the government, to fight back against the government, or to cover up for poaching that they're alleged to have done. Now, people are saying that that wouldn't actually cover up for the poaching, but I think setting fire to the entire thing actually probably would do it very well.
And even if it wasn't to cover up the poaching, which is horrendous in itself, it's arson.
Yeah.
It's still illegal.
Yeah, well, they allege that they didn't do it, but they were actually convicted. Now, federal guidelines say that for that sort of crime, there is a minimum sentence of 5 years. When they went to court, they argued that that was too long, which I'm kind of even sympathetic to that idea. That does seem like a long time when nobody died. Somebody almost died, but nobody actually died. But anyway, the judge was like, you know what, that's a good point. I don't care if it's the federal law of minimum of 5 years. I'm going to give you just a couple of months for one of them and a year for the other. Now, they have since served that time. It worked its way up from that court to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they said, no, you can't just give lower than the federal mandated minimum.
Right.
You have to. And so now they are expected to go back to serve the rest of their time.
Right.
Now, a lot of people who are sympathetic to either the Hammonds or to the militia, which we're going to get to, say that this is double jeopardy. They're being charged again. They're not being charged again.
Because they don't have to serve this. They don't have to serve the time that they already served. They're just serving to equal the 5 years. That's the minimum.
Yeah.
It's not double jeopardy. You're just actually having to do what you're meant to do.
Exactly.
Which wasn't carried out in the first place properly.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be like if you went to jail and then an appeals court said no, you should actually be sent out, and you'd be pissed off. That's how our court system works. And look, I'd be pissed if I were the Hammonds. Nobody wants to go back to jail.
Nobody wants to go to jail,
especially for
in
years.
the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is frustrating, but that's the way that the appeals process works.
I'm watching, sorry, this is totally on a tangent, but I'm watching Making of a Murderer right now, which I'm totally obsessed with. And so everybody's obsessed with it. So for me, I'm like, 5 years, child's play. Like, obviously, like if it were me, I would be dying. But
5 minutes in.
5 minutes, I would give up. But
can I give up my 2 calls per day to take 2 selfies a day, please? You like selfies.
I was just having a conversation. I didn't attack you at all. It's Monday morning. Why are you coming after me?
This militia's got me fired up. Okay, so where does the militia come in? So there are the Bundys. You might have heard about Cliven Bundy, who had a showdown with the federal government over his alleged crimes over ranching in a different part of the country. His sons and other affiliated people have been traveling around the country getting involved in these little local disputes, whether the people in those local areas want them to or not, ever since. And this is just the latest incident of that. So they got together with some of their friends and they traveled up, and as this protest was going on, they decided, no, we are going to take a stand against the tyranny of the government who is buying up too much land and trampling the rights of landowners, and so they moved in and took over those buildings while they were unoccupied over the holiday weekend. They have since put out calls in video form and in social media saying, we want patriots from around the country to come prepared meaning bring your guns, to hang out here and live here for as long as is necessary.
The Bundys are armed as currently.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly how much weaponry they have since they refused to actually let the reporters inside the buildings, but they are supposedly armed. Now, they said originally they had 150 people, but as with, unfortunately, a lot of men, they overestimated the size because there's something like 6 to 12 people there. Not 150. I know math is difficult. I don't like it either, but you messed up a lot there in the numbers. So they have moved in and they're saying we're not leaving. Now, up until that point, I would probably be largely sympathetic. I mean, I hate the individuals involved in it, not the Hammonds. Maybe a little bit Hammonds. I mostly don't like the militia members who are going around getting involved in disputes with people that, like, the Hammonds aren't even involved with this anymore. And other patriot groups, like the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers, are saying we don't even support this.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Why are they called militiamen?
Because they're members of a militia. A militia is sort of a non-directly affiliated with the government military
So they're not affiliated with the government?
No militia, well, not outside of war, I suppose.
So why are we calling them militiamen and not terrorists?
I would reserve the word terrorist until they actually kill someone. That's what I would do. Maybe I'm being too late.
Terror by saying, oh, we have 150 people, we're against the tyranny, and blah, blah, blah. And then I listened to BBC this morning, and they were saying, oh, yes, the police are calling them troublemakers.
Yeah. See, I don't like that. That's going to... So troublemaker is down here. Protester is down here. Peaceful protester, as ABC said originally, is down here. I would say identifying them as militia members, which I see as kind of a denigrating term. I mean, they're literally in a militia, so I think that that's just descriptive. I'm sympathetic to people who label them as terrorists, but I reserve that for actual acts of violence and destruction of property and death, which maybe we'll end up with.
Taking over a property, kind of destruction.
Yeah, well, the reason I don't want to say is because, if Black Lives Matter occupied a building, or if student protesters occupied a building, I think that that's part of protest. Where I think that they have crossed the line is they made clear, one of the Bundy sons, I believe it was Ryan Bundy, was talking with a reporter from the Oregonian newspaper, and he said, we are ready to kill or be killed if they try to take back the building. That's why I'm so pissed off. You can protest all you want, but when you say, if they try to take back the building that is theirs, we will kill people... You don't get to do that.
And there's also a distinction between if a Black Lives Matter activist goes and occupies a building versus going in and taking over a building and being armed. That's a huge
the presence of guns.
There. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing that you can have, I tweeted about this, you can have Skittles and be a thug and a terrorist, or you can have an AK-47 and be a peaceful protester.
Yeah.
I think that peace is best dispensed from an assault rifle, personally. But anyway, so they are, now that we're into the week, they're still in there. They are saying we want as many people to come as possible. We have no idea if that people are actually traveling there. And we know some locals in the area are sympathetic because they support the Hammonds, but they don't necessarily like these militia members starting up a conflict there and potentially making all of them, even those with legitimate grievances against the government, look like crazy people.
And so that's the line that I think is kind of hard to tie together from a lot of the media, is basically they're using the Hammonds as sort of like a motivator for what they're saying their cause is, even though, I mean, the Hammonds haven't really released a statement yet, but their lawyers saying no, these are totally unrelated. Obviously,
yeah, they don't want to be involved in that.
They don't want to be involved in. They're already going to prison for 5 years, which they're upset about. But these people are saying, oh, we're supporting these people. This is how the government is so awful, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of the link between them that I think some of the media, it's hard to put together. You're like, why are we talking about two different families if they're not? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there was the chance that it would be more closely linked together. Supposedly, early on, it seemed like the Hammonds were actually going to go to this place, but they immediately distanced themselves. And so that's the situation. I'm frustrated. It's a great idea. It's the best idea they've had in years. I'm frustrated with the presence of guns and the threats of death. I'm frustrated with them going around just starting shit, regardless of what the people in that area want to be done. I'm frustrated with the way that they're being portrayed versus other legitimate protest movements. You can be pissed off at the way the government manages land. I have my own grievances. But this isn't how you do it. You don't bring guns and you don't threaten to kill people. That's all I'm asking, really. I think that's
fair.
I think that's totally legitimate. Anyway, that's the situation as it stands right now. I know that people who are supporters of them don't...
Can I ask you a question before you wrap up? What crime time or whatever could they face once they come out?
I actually have no idea. And so far, it doesn't look like they're going to face anything because it doesn't even seem like the government is going to investigate it. Very few, I don't think any of the presidential candidates have mentioned it yet, certainly not the Republicans. They don't seem like, maybe they're hoping that they'll just get bored after a day or two in a snowy cabin.
Go home
and go home. I don't know. But it's interesting that like in Ferguson, you have the National Guard show up. Now you have here, they're threatening to kill people. Nobody shows up. Maybe because they're taking them seriously and they're afraid of being shot by idiots. So yeah, I don't know what the actual crime could be. But if they do get sentenced and sent to jail, I hope that they serve all their time at once, not split into two things, because we know that pisses people off.
I hear that.
Exactly. Anyway, let us know what you think about this. If you're a supporter of them and you don't care about the facts, feel free to post below there. I know you're going to do it anyway, so I might as well invite it. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.